you touched on this. It's quite the dopamine machine. I think for an artist whose career it is to create music, we are sort of like the reflection of their hard work.
What things can you think of to keep people on the platform? So it sounds like you're doing that, and not just thinking it for the sake of retaining customers, but truly and genuinely thinking, how can we add value?
If you are an emerging artist, you have to answer these questions for yourself. You know, what makes you special, and then how do you transport that message? How do you transport that story, and how do you tell that story through content?
What's up, my friends? brodienero.tv. We're back. Another podcast. Super excited for this one. I'm here with my new friend, Oskar Eichler. I said it right?
You said it perfectly. Yes.
Okay, nice. How's everything, bro? You good?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Yeah,
Awesome.
no doubt, man. This is a really cool episode to do because it's the first time we're in Miss Fish actually filming it. I talk about this place all the time. It's near and dear to my heart. Music director here, resident. I have the She's With Us event here every week. So it's nice to be in this atmosphere and make the first podcast with someone super cool.
Heck yeah. I've
Yeah.
only seen this place at night when it's full of people, and the atmosphere is also magical at the day. I gotta say, it's very nice.
Yeah, no doubt, bro.
Yeah.
An initial question that I like to ask just to keep things connected to where we are, which is in the magical Bali.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the evolution of the music scene? I mean, I've been here myself a little over 3 years. I'm not sure when you first got to Bali, but what's your thoughts on the whole evolution of the industry and the scene here?
Wow. I mean, I've been here for 10 years now, actually, in Bali.
Oh,
So
wow.
been through all the different phases pre-COVID. There was like definitely more. When I originally came here, the number one club was Sky Garden, right? That was down in Seminia, down in Kuta, and that was
Wow.
like the place. Like, and they had basically top 100 DJs there every day, literally every day. It was weird. I think the guy who's running used to run that now. He's now running Shishi here, so it's definitely on a more commercial side. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that like I was I don't know. For me, the scene has definitely developed in the right direction, where it's now more. I feel like generally the music industry has sort of matured out of COVID with all these sort of bubbles that now have like a really strong community around them. So, for example, here at Miss Fish, you have a great community now, especially a lot in the Afro house scene. You have amazing places like Savaya opening now that are bringing really like the top A-listers of the world
Best
to
of the
Bali.
best.
It's so
Yeah.
you can if you are a music lover, especially in electronic music, you're catered very well in Bali, I find. I sort of think maybe the w- but I think that has to do with people just generally liking they don't necessarily like to do the late nights in Bali. I don't, at least I think so. I think people like to spend more like the earlier evenings into like maybe like 2 a.m. or something like this.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of what Savaya does as well, right? But
Yeah.
then if you go out and I don't know, of course, like in London or in Ibiza, like the nights go until like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. But I have to say, I sort of prefer it here. I mean, the nights can go longer, of course. There's after parties, there's Red Ruby, and all these places that
Yeah.
have been around for a long time. But I do want to say, like, people, they like to get up early here, go surfing, go to yoga, do something, so it's like it combines sort of the healthy lifestyle and the adventure lifestyle of Bali together
Yeah.
with some good parties. I think that's what works out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great point you said there because Bali in itself is so far from a lot of places. So the
Yeah.
whole idea of coming here and then partying so late and going so hard on a bender or something like
Yeah.
that, and then sleeping any other time you could have here to enjoy, it seems
Yeah.
like a bit of a waste. So you're right. They've sort of organically and it's just evolved into this place that has a good balance of everything.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is the late night places, but I don't think they are like as crowded. I mean, there's obviously also people that want to go late, but I mean, I think all the good venues they have like their prime time. I would say between like 11 p.m. and like 2 a.m. That's
Mm-hmm.
like when most people are out, and then you I think that's enough as well. I mean, some countries have curfews actually at like 2 a.m. Like even like LA, I think has curfews at 2 a.m. and stuff. And
Wow.
honestly, I have to say I don't even mind it that much because then you don't even have the fear of missing out. If it's just like that's
Yeah.
it, you go home, you wake up. I actually sometimes I find it a little bit strange that parties like literally don't even start until 2 a.m. because you
Yeah.
have dinner and then you have like 3 or 4 hours where you're just like what
This is it.
you're in pre-game or something, but you destroy your whole like sleeping cycle and everything.
Yeah, this
It's
is
like
it.
it's kind of weird. Here
Yeah.
you can go out, and then you wake up the next morning 9 a.m. You're fresh. It's still okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. Cool, man.
yeah.
So, for those that don't know, I mean, we have a lot to talk about today, primarily about a super popular application that you're a founder of, SongStats. But for those that don't know, could you tell us perhaps all of the, let's say, professional titles that you hold or your key projects that you're known for?
Okay, well, me personally, right now, as you alluded to, I'm the CEO and founder of SongStats. So that's a music data analytics app, primarily for musicians, artists, but also record labels,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much anyone in the music industry that wants music data across Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, TikTok, Beatport, you name it, right? Then also, I'm involved with 1001 Tracklists, which is the leading DJ tracklist database. That means we are collecting all of the set lists from what DJs are performing at festivals. So you can use that website as a fan to discover, for example, what David Guetta played at the Tomorrowland main stage that year, if you were there. But then, of course, also niche sets from all the way from like Jamie Jones to, Hugel, what he's playing at his
Yeah.
residency at High. So we have a very dedicated community, and that data is also really valuable to artists because then they can discover who's actually supporting their music, right? So you would use 1001 Tracklist to find out that someone else played your track at a big show. Like I recently found out that like Mau P was playing one of my tracks at Coachella, and it's like, wow, that's like amazing. And then of course you can try to find like a media link for it, like a YouTube video recording, so then you can crop that out and use it for your own content. So it's very valuable to artists. And now it of course integrates with SongStats. So then as an artist, you receive a push notification the moment that happens, right? And then I'm also I have my artist project called Don't Blink
Yeah.
together with my good friend Alex. So we're growing and it's fun. We're really producing our own sound, and we have our own record label called Low Ceiling, and that's a fun venture as well. It keeps me busy. I want to say between all these projects. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Man, I was gonna save this maybe for the end, but just as an entrepreneur myself that's juggling a lot from Brodie TV, the podcast, to trying to put 2, 3 hours every day producing music to music programming, promotion, event organization, all of these things. How do you find the wherewithal and the capacity to manage all of these things and these commitments and be able to perform at the level that you're doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a balance, right? Like,
Mm,
I sort of think, you need a good team. I think I couldn't do everything that we accomplish without a good team. I think that's for anyone that's starting out. I think you need to understand it. You have to actually like let go of certain responsibilities. It's often not easy to let go because you have
mm,
your way of doing things.
yeah.
Like even if it's like as often as a producer, let's say you start as a producer, then you have a certain way that you want stuff to sound, but then it grows outside of this, right? Let's say, for example, then you have an art direction that you want to represent. So you learn Photoshop and then you're familiar with that. But then eventually, like, you become so busy with other things, it's much better than if you find someone that you trust, they can actually take on some of these things.
Mm,
And it takes time to train or to find the right people that believe in you, that trust you. So, for example, I was running my other artist project before, like a couple of years. I think we started Don't Blink in 2018. Before that, I had my personal artist project that was running for like a decade. And it became the right time where we were saying, like, Alex and I were already here in Bali together. We already share a studio together for us to start a project together. And that's how Don't
mm,
Blink was born because I
cool.
trust him. I already work with him on my personal project, and we have the right music taste. So that works out. I trust his judgment, he trusts mine, and it works really well. Now we are like 1 + 1 = 3 sometimes, like we
Mm-hmm.
can achieve much more together, right? So I think with our company now with SongStats, I think we're now 12 people working on SongStats.
Wow.
So I mean, I couldn't possibly like no one can do all of this themselves, right? Like I think at this point it's much more about delegating my time to sort of unblock people. In a way, it's sort of all the hardest problems sort of land on my table, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's almost like you want to make sure that everyone else can work at their capacity. So if they're waiting for you, right, then I make sure I prioritize that right now, because then if I can give you feedback on something, then you can continue working on it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I'm now deep in a rabbit hole somewhere else, and then you're just waiting for me for a whole week, then that's also counterproductive, right? So in a way, I'm pretty flexible with my times. Some weeks I'm really deep into the new features we're launching, new products we're launching with SongStats. Other weeks I'm really deep into more on the 1001 tracklist side. We recently launched a label with Tomorrowland, and that took a lot of attention. And then and then next I'm down in a tour for Don't Blink, and I'm really focusing on like getting good content and shooting a set or something like this,
Yeah.
or being spending more time in the studio. So it's I love to work, and I think
Yeah.
you have to love the process, if you're into it.
No, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
find that some obvious good practices and philosophies I think are if what you're doing and pursuing is backed by love and passion, it doesn't really feel like work. So maybe when we sit here and roll out and list out everything that you do and all of your commitments, it
Yeah.
sounds like a lot to somebody that's just hearing it,
Mm,
but you're just in the flow, doing
yeah.
what you love.
I mean, I don't really think about the w- I don't really think about it as work. I see sort of where we want to get with each project. That's sort of the goal. And then once you reach that goal, there's always another goal, right? But the process of it, I don't even think it feels like work. It feels exciting. You learn a lot of things with anything that we do, with any feature that we launch, with any, like, oftentimes I'm there fixing bugs or in customer support trying to resolve something for someone. There's all
Mm,
these little bits and pieces, and it's never boring. It's always fun, I want to say.
cool.
Sometimes it can be frustrating. I mean, some tasks, like doing taxes or something like this,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's draining, but
yeah.
you got to power through it. And and sometimes I even set myself a challenge, like, can I finish this by tomorrow? Like, if you just put yourself to that challenge mindset, then you can actually do it, because then it's not like, I think a lot of tasks that you sort of like are not super excited about. um I sort of think if you push yourself, and then try to get it done, or even just start it, it's actually becoming less frightening. If you Oftentimes you don't even want to start, so you keep pushing it away in your calendar or something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I do that plenty, where I'm like, oh fuck, I still have this thing to do or something,
Yeah.
and then you keep pushing it, you're pushing it out for a couple of days, you're pushing it out for a week, and it becomes this burden, even though it's not even supposed to be a burden. Because
Hmm.
then the moment you start, you're like, I can do this in 2 hours, actually. Why didn't I do this last week? Why did I
Right.
drench over this task for so long, right? So
Yeah.
oftentimes it just gets started. And like, once you understand it, it's less stressful in the first place, right? I think stress only comes when you don't know how much is actually like, how much work is involved. Or if you don't understand the problem yet, is when you feel a bit stressed about it, I feel like. So often I just want to understand the problem first, and then, you feel much better about it. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, it's a great point. Super logical. I want to spend a bunch of time now talking about song stats,
Mm-hmm.
and we can unpack a bunch here. So, um, from what I understand, and this will be like the super simple version, I understand that Song Stats is an app that you as an artist, DJ, performer, singer, whatever, it allows you to get notifications about the performance of your music online. And the wow factor for me, even though it sounds simple, is that what I think excites people for dopamine purposes is that you have this option where you can tether or directly share through a graphic what that achievement is right on a
Yes.
social media, so you can brag and boast a little bit, which I everybody does, and I think it's a great feature. Could you tell us more and basically expand on what I just said? Because obviously everything I said is pretty fundamental,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm sure you could share some more cool features and things to get excited about. I just wanted to give this version so people that don't know have an idea of the basic functionality of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So imagine SongStats being both a desktop dashboard, so it's on your computer, but then also, I think even more importantly for artists, it's in your pocket, on your phone as an app.
Mm,
So what we do is we basically segment SongStats into like four categories, I would say right now. One is your activity feed. So that's what you touched on right now. We have a feed, and anything that happens with your music, like almost in real time, you receive notifications for, and you can see in your feed. You can customize this. So if you are like an up and coming artist, you probably want to receive everything from any
mm,
playlist, from any chart entry, from any support. But then if you're like a little bit more established, you might want to filter this a little bit, because otherwise any playlist with like 200 followers might not really be of interest to you. But you want to see still that a playlist with, let's say, 10,000 plus followers, you still want to receive that notification. So we have customizations for this where you can toggle on what you want to receive, or what you want to hide. And then, so that feed is very personal to you. And you touched on this, it's quite the dopamine machine. I think for an artist, whose career it is to create music, we are sort of like the reflection of their hard work, right? You see all the success coming in, the milestones, the supports. If someone, a big creator, uses your track in their Instagram reel or on a TikTok video, all of these things we notify you about, and then you can discover more. You click on it, and as we said, as you sort of said, we can create these share artworks and
Mm-hmm.
share them directly to Instagram, to Facebook, to you can download them, share them anywhere really, and they're basically summarizing your let's say that milestone or that activity in like a good looking artwork where we have plenty of different backgrounds. You can even like use your Spotify canvas, which is this like 7-second loop of
Yeah.
like a video that's playing in the background, so it's really fun. And the whole idea here is to make this data not boring. We never really want SongStats to just be this like a graph that you need to look at or something, and like need to be a data scientist for, to understand.
Right.
Like that's not the point. The point is to be actionable, meaning that while your release is rolling out right now, literally a lot of artists release on Friday. Literally on Friday, artists will receive 15, 20 notifications, all the big playlists that I got into, all the big people
Mm.
that supported them. And it's sort of like it allows them to feel accomplished about it, but then also you can share it, you can tag the people that supported you, and then they see it. And we feel that if you grow this sort of like support network around yourself and also thank your supporters, they will continue to support you in the future, right? And then you build and build and build, and that's sort of that momentum that I think we want to champion with SongStats primarily, right? So we want to be actionable and help you during your release cycle to make more of each release. Yeah.
Wow, cool. How many users are on SongStats right now?
I mean, I want to say, but so we launched SongStats in April of 2020.
Okay, it's five
But by
years.
now we had over, I think, 300,000 members registering, and we currently have somewhere around 10,000 active artists or something like this
Wow.
who are actively subscribed. And with that, of course, what we see is a lot of artists sometimes resubscribe, like they let's say you don't have a release for a couple of months, you might like cancel your subscription, you come back once you have a release. But we also, even that, we want to make it more sort of addictive in a way.
Yeah.
For example, we have now a new feature that is widgets on the phone, where, for example, you can add a widget to your home screen, and then you can track your followers, for example, or your monthly listeners. So you could see how many Instagram followers you have or how many monthly listeners you have, and it's just right on your home screen. You don't even need to launch the app, so you can just keep track of it. Same like you would keep track of stocks or something like this, right? It's right
Ah,
there, or of the weather, right? So it's very motivating, to see like, oh, like I'm growing, as an artist. And of course, even though you don't have a music release out maybe the next couple of months, your music career never sleeps and never stops, right? And you still wanna push yourself on socials and wanna keep growing. So I think we can touch on a couple of other features that SongStats has.
please,
I
yeah.
think primarily a great one. So I said there's four pillars. So one that is very interesting is marketing tools. So we did launch this a couple of years back, and it was sort of the idea was we want to give artists a way, or also labels for that matter, to grow their releases with. But we didn't want to just create another tool that could already be, someone else could already do it, but we wanted to really leverage the data that we're collecting.
Hmm.
So we started with playlist recommendations. So we have all this playlist data coming in from Spotify, from Apple Music, from Deezer, from Tidal, from everywhere, right? So we started actually contacting all of the big submission platforms for playlists. So think of like SubmitHub and Groover and Daily Playlists and SongRocket, and there's a couple more that we now integrate directly into SongStats. So SongStats becomes almost like a search engine for playlist in a way, right? Think of it as Google. You can't pitch with us directly, but we let you know how you can actually contact that playlist, and then also which playlist is relevant to you.
Oh,
So
cool.
so we give you sort of targeted recommendations based on your previous releases. So we look at you and your related artists and the releases that you made, and then we figure out what playlists are valuable to you that you should put your music on, that we see are successful and that we have contact options for. And then you can simply click okay, submit up. It opens submit up in a new tab, and you can pitch your music to that curator of that playlist, right? And we
Hmm.
also include, of course, contact options like Instagram and email and Facebook, and all of these things we're already collecting ourselves. But it's become a really powerful tool. And from there, we then expanded this to creators, for example. So then you can reach out to creators on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube for them to use your music in the shorts or in their reels, right? And we again collaborate with a couple of platforms that are helping you to pitch to creators. And so we know which creators are in their catalog, basically, or on those platforms to pitch to. So it goes a long way. So again, it's more about helping artists grow their career instead of just being a reflection of what happened in the past, right? We want to be there for the future success, not just for the past success, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's brilliant because another question I had just as a business owner that has sort of a subscription model, how is like your retention, and
Mm,
then what things can you think of to keep people on the platform? So it
right.
sounds like you're doing that, and not just thinking it for the sake of retaining customers, but truly and genuinely thinking, how can we add value and
Yes.
keep artists moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, we added so many features to SongStats since we launched. We launched, I think, with 4 or 5 data sources. Now we're at like 13 or 14. We're like, it's definitely like a big data problem, to collect all of this, especially music metadata is kind of messed up over
Yeah.
across the board. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes to power all of this, right? It's interesting because every time we launch a new feature, we now dedicate like a couple of weeks after the launch as well to make sure that we support it well. That if there's any bugs that like, if there's anything that users need or have feedback for, that we implement that fast. Because it's really helpful to have a strong user community. We get so much feedback every day of what people want. It's almost like difficult to like, and we sort of keep like internal tallies of like what
Oh
are like the
yeah.
most requested features. What are the most requested data sources. So feel free at any time to reach out to us and let us know what you would like us to do. We definitely listen, and the more feedback we get, that definitely we've basically since the beginning of SongSets we've built all the features based on like what has been the most user feedback essentially. So we're pretty adaptive, and a lot of the features we're building are also selfish, because a bunch of us are also artists.
Yeah.
So a lot of the tools we're doing are actually like really fun for us to just use ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's fun. I mean, I use SongSets every day, so it's
Wow.
yeah,
Well, what's cool is like for when you think about making a product or you want to advocate or be a brand ambassador, what better perspective to have than one of the clients or the users,
right.
right? So you're not just, let's say, a tech guru or someone that's into just building tech and applications and making money. No, like you are an artist in the industry that's actively trying to grow. So you're bringing that perspective.
Yes.
So you completely understand who's on the other side.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because we really started in electronic music. We came from 1001 track lists, which was primarily electronic music. So all of our first customers were all in electronic. And then when we basically launched SongStats as the version that is today, that was in 2020, it really opened up to all genres of music. And
Mm,
suddenly, we have customers in country, in K-pop, in hip hop, in reggaeton, and all these things, right? And suddenly, like, it's like, whoa, and all of them have slightly different problems. They have slightly different like viewpoints, and
mhm.
you suddenly like you need to open your perspective of like, okay, this could actually be cool. And
Ah,
so we always approach song sets to try and be very user friendly. I think there's other tools that can be kind of overwhelming. The idea is to be more like, like Apple, as the ecosystem is very
right.
simple to use, very user friendly. So for example, I talked about the customizations, for example, for the activity feed. Instead of you literally like typing in all the thresholds yourself for like each of like the different data sources, like, oh, for followers I want like anything above 400 plus. Like, of course it could give maybe some power user more customizability over the platform, but for the majority of users it would actually like it would deteriorate their experience with the platform. So instead what
Mm,
we determined is essentially like 4 primary filter types. So you can basically go from baseline to mid range to high pass to top end, which is like funny, right? Like,
yeah.
and then you have some additional toggles of like, oh, I want only editorial playlist, or I want to hide milestones or something like this. But we make it sort of we sort of configured from the data that we've seen what is most applicable to the different like stages of careers that artists go through, and that has been working out really well. And if we find that like one configuration can be changed or adopted, we can easily make that change across the board, right? but it takes a little bit away from the user to be able to customize everything down to like the little metric,
Mm.
but also it makes the user experience just quite a lot like more seamless. And I think that's really important to us. And of course, these are all considerations that you have to make, right? Like on the product side, and it's not so easy to cram all of this data on like a small device as well, make it like usable and like sort of interesting. So yeah, there's a lot of thought going into building this out, and of course, the user feedback is what drives all of it in the end of the day, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no doubt. No, like I said, I was able to describe SongStats as best I could as someone that's used it a bit this year. I'm having a bit of break between releases, so I haven't been on there as much. But
Hmm.
what I've learned now just in this discussion is that there's things that could be helping me prepare for the next release, or other functions that can help me understand what's happening online with my various personal platforms.
Yeah, I mean, so let's talk about the third pillar here, which is
Mm.
like the audience tab. So with audience, we allow you to actually connect, for example, your Instagram channel directly, your YouTube channel, your Facebook account, so your Facebook page. So we pull in some data from your direct channel, so you can actually see where's your audience located, what's your demographic looks like. With Spotify, we show you the top cities where people are listening for, not just the top 5. I think it was the top 50 cities where people are listening from. So it's really helpful because you can actually see like, well, um, let's say I have 3,000 monthly listeners in Argentina right now. Like
Hmm.
I should definitely try to organize a tour there, or like reach out to some promoters, right? And see if like I can do something, or maybe I should do something with a label from Argentina, since and keep growing in that market, right? I think these are all sort of like logical decisions, but you need sort of a little bit of data to back it up.
Right.
I can say that one of or two, like we work on the enterprise side, so maybe something else to talk about, but we have the product side, which is like the SongStats app and the dashboard, but then we also have an enterprise side where we provide the data that we're collecting to other companies, right? And we pretty much work with all of the big booking agencies. So they use and leverage our data to then use this data as an argument to book their acts, right? So if they see like, hey, this artist has 50,000 monthly listeners in Singapore, they know sort of what the target demographic looks like. They can book the right venue, they can find the right partner to work with, and choose on the venue size, and then sell the tickets there, right? And they use these as arguments to book shows, right? And you can also of course use a lot of the SongStats arguments. For example, when you pitch music to Spotify, right? If you know that certain artists supported your music recently, like I think this is a great argument when you do the pitch on Spotify for artists and saying like why this track should be featured, right? Like right there, like, hey, this music recently entered the Beatport charts. I'm like this track got supported by Hugel or someone like this, or Inilea, and then at that point it really blows up. I think
Yeah.
and people at the other side, if you just write, oh, it's a cool track I worked hard on in the studio. I mean, okay, everyone, let's say you're an editor on the other side of this, they at Spotify they have sort of a dashboard where they see all of the submissions coming through. I mean, if you need to make an argument, right? It's actually, if you speak with any of the major labels about this, all they're searching for is arguments to repitch your song, to like that's all they're searching for. They're searching
Hmm.
for all these things that they let's say number one on Beatport, let's say a big support, let's say a big tour coming up. All of these are strong arguments for you to end up on more playlists, on more editorial playlists, right?
Hmm.
So as an artist, you almost have to create these, or like also like communicate what actually happened to you, and you have to find out about it. And SongStats is helpful for this, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, I had no idea about the enterprise aspect where booking agents are using that as leverage
Hmm.
to prove that their artists should come play in those markets.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, man. So it's not even just artists, it's other industry professionals alike that are related to the artists that can benefit from this app.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we're now working with other apps in the industry that we power, with distributors, with management firms, with big label groups. I mean, anyone that needs access to some of this data where it can be interesting for them or for their clients. I mean, we're very flexible in the way that our API is structured, so we make sure that it fits your business model in the best way possible. And yeah, it's a whole other side of our business now, actually, because we know how much it takes to collect all of this and sort of aggregate all of this in like a usable format. So if we can save you a lot of time doing this yourself, or possibly with especially smaller teams wouldn't even have the resources to build something like this, or it would take them years. So with us now, they get like a easy easy plug and play API, one request, and they get all the data for an artist, right? So it's pretty powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing, man. I have something I want to jump into, but you just reminded me that we're going over four pillars. So I thought
Mm.
if you wanted to touch on
The fourth.
whatever the fourth pillar is,
Mhm.
let's do it because I'm actually super excited about this next thing I want to ask. But let's
Sure.
make
Let
sure
me
we
let me
cover
quickly
everything.
touch on the last one, which is just pure analytics. So we had the feed with marketing tools, audience, and then analytics. So analytics we provide both on the artist level or label level, and then also on the track level. So for each track, you can dive in. You see a full list of all of the supports, right? Um, you can share these, so we have these like overarching share artworks as well that are not just specific to one accomplishment but to you as an artist, where we like sum all of, let's say, your followers, or we sum all of the playlists that you were on, and so you can share sort of like your current status as an artist, like how much streams you made over time, etc.,
Mm.
right? And then so analytics are really helpful to just dive in, and then for example, let's say a bunch of people used your tracks on YouTube Shorts, right? You can then look at those shorts individually. You can actually open them within YouTube and share them, share them yourself, or share them to your Instagram reels, the Instagram videos, right? Because if they use your music, that's literally free advertising for you. It is really powerful to then share it, thank them, if they do a cool dance to it, a choreography, if they just use it for a funny meme, like all of this is sort of like free content for you to like keep promoting your music, right? And so we find it really helpful to sort of engage with all of these supporters, because they will keep using you, and then you can start building, and you can start building even for large artists. I think it's always a question about getting more content, right? Like
Yeah.
it's all about the content nowadays. I think if you think about it from a perspective of how do you even know about any artist today and that they are doing really well? I thought of this the other day, but if you like, there's no more like TV advertising or something like this, right? Like I think the way that I discover music today primarily is either on the Beatport charts.
Yeah.
That's fairly niche. I don't think any like every fan is on Beatport. I think it's primarily other DJs in the industry. It would maybe be on Spotify or something, some editorial playlists that you follow, or some artists that you just generally follow. But then I would think that the main way that you know about an artist, what they're up to, and everything that they're doing is on social media, which at least for me is primarily Instagram, but of course also TikTok now is like massive and is growing in importance. So then, if that's the only way that like fans really know that you're crushing it, then you have to think about yourself like, okay, how can I actually like grow as an artist? And the only actual way to do that is to create more content, craft a story around you, take people on a ride, share more insights of like what you want to achieve in your career, and sort of find your niche, right? And I think that's a whole other topic we can maybe touch upon a little bit later. But I sort of think if Songsets can help you with sort of like monitoring that success and that side of the business, and then because it is a big side of the business, it's no longer just about creating the song, it's about promoting it, pushing it, and then also not being faceless. But I mean, okay, some artists are faceless, they put on a mask or something, but it's really, but even that is about storytelling, it's about crafting content around that
Yep.
persona, right? So yeah, it's an interesting game, and the game keeps developing over time, right? And I think you need to adopt and stay sort of ahead, or try to learn from other artists what they are doing right, to see what can work for you, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
all brilliantly said. The next question I wanted to ask is kind of like a bigger topic question. Maybe it's a loaded question, a bit open-ended, but what's your general thoughts, let's say, on the integration of AI into the music industry from a multitude of angles? Something as fundamental as music production. It's
Mm-hmm.
making it easier for producers, which can be good because now great producers can spend less time on certain challenging tasks,
Mm-hmm.
but it also is allowing people that are way more or less advanced kind of cut corners and advance in the industry.
Yeah.
Um, Outside of music production, too, we're seeing ways to use it. But what is kind of your opinion on the integration of AI now into the music industry?
Yeah, great question. I think it's very open ended. Let's start with production, music production. I feel like some artists are maybe afraid that AI is taking over. I think what they're doing. I think if you look at platforms, they're now leveraging AI hardcore for making songs, like literally from start to finish. There's Suno and there's a couple of others that are doing this. Um, it can be scary, you know. They are getting so insanely good that you couldn't often tell anymore, like, was this actually written by a human, or was this just an AI sort of like aggregating the entire world catalog of music and then creating something new, right?
Yeah.
um, what I want to say is that as an artist, you need to lean into this because it's not going to go away. That's my opinion on it. So actually, with AI, you can leverage AI to help you generate cool ideas. You know, from the songwriting process of using ChatGPT to actually write lyrics, to then of course platforms like Suno, or there's even now like AI mastering tools and all of these things, and it can actually help you be faster, be more creative, and create new sounds that you never were able to do before, right? I think this is a little bit more scary potentially. I find for maybe songwriters or composers maybe, because if you can churn out ideas very fast, then what's still the value of music a little bit, right?
Right.
And I think the value of music ultimately now will be the human element to it more and more,
Mm,
because ultimately, and that again puts you down back to content on social media, because the track itself doesn't really matter where it came from anymore. It was fully created by AI or half created by AI or fully created manually. You
yeah.
need to take people on a journey and showing them how was it created, who are you, and make them believe in who you are as an artist. Because ultimately, I think that human connection is what people buy into, and that's who they want to see live perform, and that's who they want to meet and become a fan of. That's not like a robotic track or something like this. That's like the human connection. But you have to, I think you have to create that story for yourself. And I think it's not easy, but I feel like it's important to lean into it
Yeah.
and leverage it, because otherwise I think other artists that do use it have an edge, right? And that gap will be greater and greater, will be harder and harder to keep up, right?
Yeah, no, all brilliantly said as well. And it makes me kind of think of some of these, let's say, simple terms, old school guys that are saying, oh, we're sick of the phones, we're sick of
Mm,
technology, it's washing the music out and all this stuff. But there's an aspect of, what's not an aspect, but life in general is going to continue to evolve and advance, and new things are going to be innovated and come about. And we have to learn to leverage them and use them and kind of go with the flow,
yeah.
not to oversimplify it.
It's strange, right? Because always think, like, I always thought like, oh, why do my grandparents not use a phone, like an iPhone or something like this? Because they would stay so much more connected to the family if they were to use it. But it was difficult for them to keep up with technology. I try to tell myself, okay, I want to keep up with technology as much as I can, even when I get older. Now I find myself not really understanding what the frick TikTok is about, for example, right? Like
Yeah.
like it is so hard to actually keep up with this, because like, and it's actually funny, right? Like, you almost have to make an effort to try and learn sort of like what is like sort of the magic behind these tools, and what's driving them. And I think this is an important sort of exercise. Like, go in and understand how do things trend on TikTok, why do certain tracks grow there. And once you figure that out, I think actually that you can leverage it to your advantage, right? And I think I mean, generally it's so hard to keep up with everything that's happening.
Yeah.
Is something new happening every day. But like, I think it's probably the best thing that you can do is test these tools early. I mean, with our production, for example, Alex is the one that literally tests every single new plugin that comes out, and every single like controller. I think he has like a museum now of controllers or something. But generally, I mean, it's maybe a fetish. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
I still think it's the right thing to do, to just see what is coming. Like what is happening, right? And not being stuck in like the old ways. I think this can also work. I think there's also a market or bubble maybe where you can like say like, hey, no, we do everything analog. All like our entire band is analog, and but you have to communicate that. Right, you
Yeah.
have to tell people that that's the case, so they can buy into it, that they know it, and then they tell their friends, look, this band, they're doing everything analog, or this DJ is doing everything analog. And then that becomes your storyline. And then you can sell that and market that. And then you can be on stage with some like analog gear and stuff like this. And then you create a whole story around it. Then that's completely fine, right? And it's sort of rebelling a little bit against all of that AI. Or you could lean into it. And I think there was some DJ recently doing a set in collaboration with AI, where some music was literally live AI generated doing his set and stuff like this. That's also cool. But you have to, again, you have to communicate it. You have to make people sort of, yeah, I don't know, you have to make people understand your perspective and take you on that journey, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I love it. No, it's refreshing to hear you say that because, like I said, you got people out there that are against it, saying it's going to take away from us as humans. We're going to become obsolete, all this stuff. But it sounds like what people are going to crave is real connection, authenticity, and to know somebody put genuine effort into it. That'll make all the
100%.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice, man. So that was sort of the pre-question to a bigger question I wanted to ask. And this will be a great opportunity to maybe touch on some of the stuff and features you shared about SongStats, where I'm curious if we could do a mini masterclass of how an artist should be pushing and pursuing success in the music industry given the times that we're in right now and all the tools that are with us. So we used to live in a time where an artist would put out an album once a year. You wouldn't hear from them in between, but there'd be a big campaign pre-album, post-album. And now it seems that if an artist goes off the radar for too long, they could easily be forgotten given the amount of content that's coming out, the ever-flowing amount of content coming out, the amount of releases coming out every Friday. So let's just say there's an artist here that is totally optimistic and willing to lean into all the technology and AI that's out there, and they want to pursue quote unquote success. As we know, it can be subjective, but let's just say, let's actually give it a bit more context. So, say there's a local DJ with a local residency that's producing and has ambitions to go international and global, has come across SongStats, understands there's AI tools out there, and now wants to get more aggressive and consistent with their pursuit of success. What
Yeah.
are some fundamental apps or plugins or recommendations you would suggest that they could tap into
Hmm.
for their arsenal to start elevating their career?
Yeah, I mean that's there's a lot of angles to take there. I
Mm,
from my perspective now, I think anyone that starts, let's say the starting point, you're DJ, you start making music, producing yourself. I think at that point you are already taking two boxes out of maybe five, which are you're the performer, the DJ, and you're the producer, right? I think in a career now as a electronic music artist, as a which is basically like a new type of band, you also need to be a social media person. So you need to not just be in your local bar. You need to actually start posting about it, right? You need to start growing, promoting your music. You need to have a creative vision and a creative direction, and it can be anything from just starting with your name, the way you brand yourself, your logo. Then what colors do you use? What elements do you use? What is your actually identity, your creative identity, right? And as part of this, I think is extremely important to understand you as a person, as a character that you portray, but then also what sort of is the story, the broader story, what makes you special, right? Like we talked about the human connection. Ultimately, you're buying into sort of like a larger story arc, and that's actually probably the most difficult thing for a lot of artists to find, like what makes them stand out. But if you think of like any of the top artists that you are a big fan of, or even just generally like VIPs in any field, you know a lot about them, or what you think you know about them. A lot of it is like a craft and narrative, actually. Let's take like Taylor Swift or someone like this, who's then saying like, she was a bit bullied in school, and she basically then says, let's gather together all the we were against bullies, and she basically creates this like community around her, and
mhm,
then every all of her fans are sort of like with her on this, and so you can take people in a journey with this, right? The same thing you could say like, okay, uh, you know, you could talk, of course. In pop music, it's easier because they actually use their lyrics to transport a message. They can say that this was a love song or something like this. With DJs, it's a little bit more difficult. I want to say though that you need to sort of like craft your vision, your identity, and then you need to sort of like create. So let's take Google as a great example,
mhm,
right? In my mind, his branding is about making the girls dance. That was his whole like visual identity.
yeah,
He's now has his residency at High, where he's like leaning on like a massive high heel and stuff like this. but you understand how this is like creating a huge like creative brand that people buy into. He has the ladies in the DJ booth dancing. Then of course the fellas, they see that, they're like, oh wow, like, and then he creates this like sort of party where everyone wants to get involved in, where it's like, oh, all the hot people in town will be at that party, you know,
Right.
and then everyone wants to go there, right?
Yeah.
That's the narrative that he's creating, right? And he's not creating that with putting out a song. Like the song doesn't actually do that by itself, you know. The song is
Right.
often not even saying like, oh, I mean, it could say that the song is saying something like, oh, all the hot chicks in the DJ booth or something, but
Hmm.
a lot of his songs don't do that, right? But he's creating that outside of just that. So I think that visual and like creative direction is extremely important, and that allows you then to sell merchandise. That allows you then to like grow, and that allows you, only that step actually allows you to grow outside of just the producer and DJ realm, in my mind. Because other than this, like, you will get some bookings here and there from industry people that like your music, that play your songs, and they like you for that reason, and they want to get to meet you, and maybe they want to make work on a track with you or something like this. But I think only when you create this larger narrative is when actually fans start to really like want to like buy tickets and buy into your brand, right? And that takes a lot of time to build up over time. And then
Yes.
I think the last thing of it, it's possibly the last one, is marketing. It's like it doesn't even need to be someone in the music space, but like marketing is a difficult field. If you look at like any of the top guys now, they have marketing teams behind them. They know
Hmm.
how to promote their music. They allocate budgets. They allocate spending. This is, I think, these are sort of like the five pillars, and it is completely normal that you cannot like be all of that. I think it's an illusion nowadays to say that there's a one-man band, that every DJ does everything themselves. Maybe if you're solid, you can do, you can produce and you can perform and you can maybe handle your social media. If you take, for example, someone like Dom Dollar, very big now in tech house from Australia, he
Yep.
was a graphic designer before, so he has a very good graphic vision, and you can see that in his visuals, in all of his like art on his Instagram feed is very cohesive. It's awesome, you know. So
Yep.
he immediately had that trait to him, but then he still probably hires people to market him and to even to help someone produce and all these things, you know. I think this is also sort of maybe a little bit of this like stigma now, like things are like ghost produced or something like this. I don't even believe in that so much anymore, because nowadays what's happening is that you consume basically the not just the efforts of one single person, it's sort of the whole wider team. So even if there's like a producer involved, that is very normal in music, in the like outside of electronic music, I want to
True.
say. Like Ariana Grande doesn't produce her own song. She often doesn't even write her own song or something
Hmm.
like this. Maybe even sometimes they even have another singer singing it before her. So then when she just comes in the studio, she just re-sings what was already written, was already produced and everything. But in the end, it's her song for her album, and she probably gave creative direction with it. She
Yep.
put her touch on it. She probably helped write it. And I think this is even even if you look at the really big DJ stars now, this is happening in a lot of the teams. You know, they have teams that help them with the music production. They have teams that help them with the marketing, with the creative direction. Often, then, of course, the one thing that cannot be replaced is that person performing. So that is ultimately what you always will have to be, is the performer of that project. But then all the other things you can possibly delegate, right? And AI can help with this. It can help with music production. It can help with content creation. It can help with creativity. It can help with marketing strategies. So I think definitely lean into AI, right? And then learn the tools that you want to learn, and the things that you're not good at or you don't enjoy doing, find the right person to do it. And it can literally be your best friend that believes in you, that becomes your manager. And then you grow that business together. And he's really has a lot of fun reaching out to people and reaching out to labels and reaching out to promoters. And if that's not what you want to spend your time with, then you do something else and you work on that angle, right? But then that's why I was saying with Alex and I, the 1 + 1 is 3. You know, it really helps, you know, having Alex help on the production side primarily, and then on the creative side. Then I'm much better on the business side, opening doors, and ultimately the more doors you open, the better. And I think the last thing I want to say is you will receive a lot of no's in this industry. It's
Hmm.
normal. But if you get frightened of receiving no's, you will not go anywhere. It's fine to receive a no. I think rejection is sort of like something you just have to live with. Music is super subjective. I can make a track that I believe in, that I love, but you don't really, it doesn't really like touch you, you
Yeah.
know. But then maybe someone else, this will be like their favorite track of the year, you know. And so you send it to 3 labels. Oftentimes the unfortunate truth is labels don't always listen even, it just goes unnoticed, but
Mhm.
you just have to keep knocking on the door, and eventually like more and more doors will open, right? But you got to keep trying, right? That's yeah.
Yeah. Wow, bro. I knew it was gonna be a mini masterclass. I didn't know how good it was gonna be. That was freaking awesome.
Oh wow.
Dude, I must admit that, and I actually say it quite often on the podcast, that my selfish reason for doing this podcast is because I'm so eager to learn for
Right.
myself and understand where I'm at. Of course, I love sharing with people and I love seeing this community grow every single day. It's super awesome. Shout out to everybody viewing. Um, it allows me to really feel good about some decisions that I made this year. So I invested a big chunk of money working with a super high level music marketing agency. They
Amazing.
totally ripped apart my brand and rebuilt it up for me. And you can
Amazing.
even see it. I might even put some screenshots here where if you look at my YouTube channel, let's say like 3, 4 months ago, you can see the thumbnails and the inconsistencies.
Mm,
And now that I have this brand Bible that has color palettes, typography,
amazing.
logo, everything, the thumbnails even themselves just is a glimpse of a broader thing that's now been impacted, which is my entire brand. So it's so smart to do that. And we were talking about it before we started recording, where I was telling you about this tour that I was on and
Hmm.
how it was basically put together through my own personal connections and people that love my music and have heard me play, but also a lot of industry favors, if I'm super honest and transparent.
Yeah.
And what I experienced was that it was great to get out there and mobilize, but I don't have something built yet that people are flocking to and coming to because of it. And
Mm,
it's not even just the music itself, which I'm still putting a lot of effort to, but it's this whole all-encompassing brand and platform and space that people feel that they want to come and be a part of. An
yes.
example, a perfect example is Hugel, like you mentioned. So it further proves the point that I think I'm on the right track, but I need to focus on building this whole thing because let's say I could snap my finger right now and I think his name is Jan from Ushuaia and Ibiza called me and said,
Yeah.
"Yo, Brodie, I'm gonna make you a resident next year. What do you got for me?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, I got this like YouTube channel and podcast, and I have this brand and color palette." And he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, sorry, I'm not gonna take you." But
Mm,
if I was a Hugel that had this huge brand, label, and something to build from, and that could actually be 10x through the platform that they've built over at High Ibiza and Ushuaia and all that stuff,
of course.
then I'd be in the position to do so. So I share all of this just to affirm everything you said, that it's so important to take all of these things into consideration
Yeah.
and build this massive thing that people feel that they want to come be a part of.
You have a great advantage with this because you have a long form audio podcast, which is the best way to share a story. And I'm not, I think that is the reason why also other artists will really appreciate jumping on with you, because being out there and having the chance even to just talk for an hour,
Hmm.
and talk about your vision behind something, even if just at the beginning a couple thousand people see it, they can obviously share the highlights on their socials. Is again creating content for them is great, but you can transport what you as an artist feel or what you are working on, which is so important, because that is only then is when other fans understand this. I want to, I talk with Alex about this a lot, but I think the ultimate question in
Hmm.
my mind is, and this happens quite frequently to me, where I know an artist pretty well, and we bring a crew to their show, right? So maybe me and a buddy, we know them, and we're really excited to see them, and then you bring your whole crew to go see them because you're excited to see them. You're
Hmm.
like, oh, they're really great, right? So then let's say you're in the crowd, you watch that artist play, and the ultimate test now for me is like, okay, so let's say someone is like, who is this playing there, right? Like they're not knocking on you, and you turn around and you say, this is XYZ, right? Like let's say Hugel,
Hmm.
and they, and now this is basically the most important quote, is like, what makes them special? Why are they great? Why are they up there, right? And I think for all the really big artists, you can answer that question and you can make a really strong argument, right? Like,
Yes.
let's say, for example, let's say Eric Pritz or someone. If someone like were to turn out like, who is this guy? It's like, this is Eric Pritz. He's like a house music legend. He's from Sweden, and he has the most insane visuals. Everything he's doing is self-produced, and he's basically like he evolved the whole music space to a whole nother level with his visual production, right?
Hmm.
It's like, okay, you checking 2 or 3 boxes of what makes him special, right? And of course, he's a pretty like very high established example, but if you think about yourself as an artist, even as an upcoming artist, what do you want someone that is in the crowd that knows you to tell the other person that doesn't know you what makes you special, right? Like that's the ultimate question. You could say, oh, they're great producers, or hey, they have the funniest content on socials, or they run
Mm-hmm.
this like amazing vlog every week or something like this, or they produce the best mashups in the industry right now, or whatever. You have to like come up with what that is that makes you special, and then you have to transport it and tell artists and tell your fans and tell everyone what that is, because then if one person understands it, they can tell their friend. And then, like at the beginning, when Boris Brecher, for example, I'm a big Boris Brecher fan. When
Nice.
he emerged, fellow German, and I read his story, watched a bunch of like interviews with him. I understood everything about him. Like where did he get his scars from? Where did he get the mask from? How does he produce his music? All these things I absorbed, right?
Mm.
And then I was basically a transporter, probably for like 30 or 40 other people becoming fans for Boris
Wow.
by just telling them about him, saying, like, even just now talking about him, maybe someone else becomes a fan of
Yeah.
Boris, and then again, like, sort of, in because there's a great story behind it, and he's a huge inspiration for our own production by all of this by
Wow.
all of these metrics. And then of course, you attach yourself to it, and then that's how. And now he's grown so much. It's like impossible now to go to a show to him because you're just standing there like this now. There's so many fans now of his, right? So I was at shows when there was, open space in the crowd still, but I
Mm-hmm.
already really enjoyed his story. And obviously he's built it and built it and built it with a great team. He grows his label and all these things. But I think if you are an emerging artist, you have to answer these questions for yourself. What makes you special, and then how do you transport that message? How do you transport that story, and how do you tell that story through content, through a vlog, through a podcast, through skits on YouTube, or on short form content, or um, you know, maybe a mysterious identity that you want to take on, but you have to do something. I feel like nowadays to stand out, and to win people over with your humanity, right? Ultimately, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Wow. There's like three major points coming out of my brain right now because you said so much gold there. But one thing that stands out the most for me is the importance of once you start on this journey and whatever you're pursuing in life, just to open it up a little bit, to stay on that path. Because to hear you as a true fan that read Boris's story, you were there when the floors weren't so busy when he's performing, and now, because he stuck with it and his perseverance and his commitment to everything he's done, you're the type of person that advocates
Hmm.
to 30 or 40 more people. And I
Right.
remember a previous mentor of mine when I was working in the restaurant business for a little while from a marketing standpoint. And he said, it's so important that you have like, it was something about one good client experience will go and get you 40 more people, or one bad one could get you even more, but the importance
Yeah.
of having a good customer experience
Yes.
to further push the brand and stuff. So that's amazing, bro.
And it goes outside, not just like a Google review. It
Yeah.
goes also like, if you really enjoy a restaurant that you ate at, you'll bring your friends there. You'll bring like the whole crew for like a gathering, like a team dinner or something like this, or a birthday or something, because
Yeah.
you enjoyed the atmosphere, you enjoyed the food, right? I think with an artist, if you've seen someone live and he crushed it, you want to see him again. You want to bring your friends to that show the next time,
Yeah.
because they delivered, right? So and then ultimately, like from that, maybe I like actually events where there's also artists that I don't know yet. Oftentimes, especially
Mm.
from like label nights and stuff like this, you go to Music On, and there's some like two or three different stages. You suddenly see an artist you might not even have known, but then if they lay down an awesome set, you're like, who were they? And you look them up the next day and you learn more about them, or maybe you ask someone in the crowd, and then they know and they're excited to share the story with you, and you get to know them, right? That's how it transports, I think. So ultimately, good story, obviously good music. That's sort of the baseline, right? You need to have like, I think it will take a little bit of time, especially in music production, just to get the quality up there. It's
Yeah.
it's a it's a complex sort of like skill. It's not learned like any instrument. You still learn after 10 years.
Yeah.
It's never finished, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Wow, great, man. Dude, this has been an action-packed, value-filled episode. It's
love
been
it.
great. Um, I feel throughout the episode you've already given so much value and insight for artists to do and stuff. But for the sake of consistency in this podcast, I always have one question I like to ask at the end. And of all of the, let's say, 57 different points you gave about artists' success and stuff. If you could pick your three favorite, or think of three now, three gems of advice to that local producer or DJ that has aspirations of going international,
Mm-hmm.
what would you give them?
Three advices.
Yeah, three
Download
of the strong.
SONGSTATS. First off,
Yes, yes.
download SONGSTATS so you can actually see what the hell is going on in your career. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good one. I think the next is work on the music that you love to do, and
Hmm.
then find other people that you connect with. I think especially early, find other producers that love that, build like a community, share your songs with them, like even if it's a WhatsApp chat or a Discord, or on a label or something like this, because you can learn so much from each other. You can collaborate and build each other. And the third thing is, I really think, like, find your own, like, character, your own, like, story arc, your own, like, personality. And then actually, if you want to take that career seriously, focus outside of the music, focus on content creation. It's the game we play nowadays, and it's the only way that you can market yourself. So you have to, like, be comfortable in front of a camera, or you have to be good with creating assets or content. So I think that's sort of a important skill to have. And then just be genuine, be yourself, and or the persona that you want to create, and then stick with it, and approach everything from that lens. So that's sort of your filter, does it fit my brand? And then, like, if it does, that's the stuff that you want to put out. And then just grind, at that point
That's
it's
it.
just keep
Just
grinding.
grind.
Yeah.
Don't let up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nice, bro. Well, dude, I want to take a moment to acknowledge you. I'm so glad we got to do this. I was really excited when you had, I think, someone on your team reach out and express interest in being on here.
Heck yeah.
I like to bring DJs and producers on here, of course, but I like to bring people that have other professions and positions within the industry, to bring different perspectives so we can understand from all angles how we
Yeah,
can all grow and keep
for sure.
building.
Thanks
So,
for having me. This is awesome. Yeah, I love your platform, and I think, yeah, I see already that the quality is going up and up and up and up. I'm really glad to hear that you are taking actually some of the things that I just said, and you're already doing them. And
yeah.
you're also, I think, using the podcast as a platform for you to learn, for or your audience to learn, and then for you to get your message out. I think is the best way forward. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Guys,
Brodie.
hope you enjoyed. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, let us know what you think, and we'll see you in the next episode. Much love.